pictures and patterns put into words that stream across the page, capturing life as soul spoken.
Hey guys, Jane here, and today we're going to talk about the book The House on the Cerulean Sea. The House on the Cerulean Sea is a heartwarming story about Linus, who is a CPS worker, who is charged with checking out these orphanages where children with superpowers live and making sure that they are in the standards of care for these children. So I'm going to tell you all about my thoughts on House on the Cerulean Sea in just a minute. Before we continue, though, I'd like to just remind people who are new to please like and subscribe if you'd like more content. Also to remind you I'm a writer, and for just a moment here to plug my own book, because this YouTube channel is about getting my name and getting my books out there. So one of my most recent books is She-Wolf Wanted, and I thought it was appropriate to talk about in this video because we are talking about a story where there are caregivers of children and that the children play an important role in the story and the bringing of people together. And in She-Wolf Wanted, it is a very slightly similar plot. So you have Noah, who is now in charge of his 3 nephews and niece. Their parents have died and they are orphans, and they have been sent to live with him. He is a widower and does not have the means to care for them, so he places an advertisement in the paper trying to find a female werewolf who will come and marry him and help him raise these children, because he's a busy attorney and he doesn't really have time to do the single parenting thing. On this adventure is also Catherine, who is the children's aunt through their mother. So he's the uncle through their father, she's the aunt through their mother. And she had been the one caring for the children initially, after their mother died, helping the father care for them, and then ultimately, when the father passed away, helping the children get to Noah's house. And he says, while I'm waiting for a response to my advertisement, can you please stay here and help me raise these kids? And so while he's waiting for a response for the advertisement, she's staying and helping him raise the kids. And let's just say that sometimes we don't realize the wonderful things that are right under our nose. This book is available on Amazon and Audible, and I don't think anywhere else at this time. This isn't one of my books that's wide. It's Amazon exclusive as an ebook anyway. The paperback might be elsewhere. All right, so back to House on the Cerulean Sea. There's going to be spoilers, but I'm going to try not to be too spoilery. So my overall rating for House on the Cerulean Sea was 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed many elements of it, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I heard a lot of other people saying they did. So House on the Cerulean Sea is a really hyped book, and it probably should be. And parts of it did live up to the hype for me, but parts of it fell a little bit short. So our main character, Linus, he is sent to check out this particular orphanage. And when he gets there, the kids are zany and fun, and I loved the kids, particularly Sal. Sal is a kid who has had a lot of trauma and has a lot of anxiety, and when he gets scared, he turns into a dog. And if he bites you, you get his dog affliction. So Sal was absolutely my favorite of all the children, and I just loved the interaction with Linus and these children. Linus himself, I had some issues with. Linus is very much a cog in a wheel character for the most part. He does his duty, and he does care about kids, and he wants the kids to be safe and taken care of, but he doesn't really think a lot about his role and what he's doing and how it could affect the lives of the kids. He is very much just out there to do the right thing as it pertains to the rules of his job, at least initially. The owner, the headmaster of the orphanage is a gentleman named Arthur, and he is a wonderful caregiver to these children, and he really wants Linus to see the complexity of what Linus does and to see that the concerns people have about these children that he's taking care of are largely unfounded, and that yes, these children have superpowers, and yes, these children technically are dangerous, but when treated like children, they're growing up, they're able to be functional members of society, and they're not scary. And he really brings that home, I think, to Linus, that these children are not what Linus perceives them to be, and he really gets to have a good relationship with the children, especially one in particular, Lucy, who is kind of the scariest, most dangerous kid they have there, who has quite the personality. So aside from not liking Linus, which especially in the beginning of the book was a real problem for me, I had a hard time getting into it, and I never fully warmed up to Linus. He does have a character arc, he makes some changes, but even with that being said, Linus would never be my favorite character of that book or of any other book. Even by the end, I didn't necessarily think there had been enough of a change for me to really like him as a character. He still had a little bit too much of the cog in a machine feel even by the end, even though he's definitely made strides to be a little more than a cog. I never really connected to Linus, and he's the main character, so that kind of made things difficult. I also felt like the story remains a little bit zany and over the top, and this is a weird way to explain it, and it's partly due to the cover, but I don't think entirely. This book, when I play it in my head, when I was reading it and I'm seeing the characters and stuff, everybody was animated and cartoony, and it wasn't like a live action playthrough in my head, because some of the stuff in this book is so far-fetched and over the top and ridiculous at times that I don't want to say I couldn't take it seriously, but it wasn't the kind of book that felt like it could be real life. Like, we were looking at real life issues, which I appreciated, but the story itself didn't feel real. It definitely felt cartoonish and at times over the top. And I didn't enjoy that aspect of it sometimes. Like, sometimes I did, because I did like Sal and his character, but some of the other kids I didn't like as much and thought they were a little bit over the top, and I didn't necessarily think that was well done. Another issue that I had with the book was I didn't feel like we got enough explanation of the world. We're kind of thrown into the world and we're told basic things, like, obviously, people who have these mutations and these special powers, they're very limited. We don't see them very often, but like, what happened? When did we find them? When did we start segregating them? Like, what happened here? And I would have liked a little more history, maybe, of the world thrown in, because it's supposed to kind of be our world, but it's kind of not. And I just needed maybe a little bit more. And I didn't think that the setting got as much development as it needed. And I mean, don't get me wrong, guys. I don't like books that are super setting heavy. I needed a little bit more. I needed more explanation of, how did we get here? What are the rules of this world? And I didn't feel like we got that. I felt like the rules of the world were almost secondary to the characters, which is okay to a point, but like because it's so different than our own world, as far as, we've got these mutant children who are born from parents who in many cases are the same as they are. These aren't like random mutations, these are inherited mutations. So how did we get here? Where are these children's parents? How many children in the world are like this? Just a lot of things that I think were hinted at but not necessarily delved into. The book has a lot of funny moments, so I really enjoyed the humor, though again, sometimes I felt like it was over the top. I enjoyed Linus's interaction with the kids and his character arc where it came to learning to care for these children and not be afraid of them. And there is a very in the background romance between Linus and the caretaker. And I really enjoyed that was done the way it was done, because this book is super accessible to people who are maybe not ready to journey into a really deeply LGBTQIA world of books. So this is there, but it's very casual, it's in the background, and it's done without a lot of detail, without a lot of description, so that people who are maybe not quite ready to enter full-blown like male romance books, they could kind of wet their feet with that, and I think it would be a journey that most people would be comfortable with, because you have characters who are very well developed, have a lot going on, and they fall in love very naturally, and their falling in love doesn't really have a lot to do with just the he's hot, which I think can sometimes be overtaken in the male romance world. Not always, but sometimes. So, is it worth the read? I think it really depends on your taste in books. Some people really love it, some people really don't. It's extremely divisive. I liked it, but didn't love it. I actually had gotten the book or borrowed it from a friend who didn't like it, but then I had two other of my friends who read it and really did like it. And they liked it more than I did. So I think it's a very divisive book. I think it really depends on what you like and how much explanation you need of the world, how much you are okay with characters being kind of boring, kind of passive, kind of just along for the ride, because I feel like Linus is that way. Like, it really depends on your preferences. And I don't think this book will be for everybody. As a matter of fact, I think there's going to be a lot of people who read it and really don't like it, but I also think that a lot of people really will like it, and it has a lot that it's doing right. Oh, I also liked the writing style overall. So there was a lot that was done right and done well, and there was a lot of important questions asked, but it was definitely a book that had, for me, some flaws, and I was a little disappointed because I'd heard all the hype, and I was hoping we were going to have a 5-star read, and it was a 4, and 4s aren't bad. But had Linus been a little bit better of a character, and if we'd have had some more setting building and maybe toned down some of the more extreme craziness and over-the-top antics, it probably could have been a 5. So it's one of those books that had the potential to be a 5, but it just fell kind of short. So if you have read House in the Cerulean Sea, what did you think? Please leave your comments below. I will see you next time. This has been Jane. Bye.